Hello everybody, it's Whiskey11. Welcome back to the Gaming Lounge, and we're going to take a break from the Hornet videos. We're going to step over to my next favorite aircraft, which is going to be the Harrier, currently in the game. Of course, the F-14 is not out as of the making of this video, so gonna have to hold off for that. Anywho, let's get to roll with this. This is going to be a cold and dark, literally cold and dark, start on the Harrier. We are on board the USS Tarawa in the Persian Gulf, so let's get this started. The Harrier is actually a surprisingly simple aircraft to start. There's just a couple of little nuances that go on. One of the first things that we need to do is we need to go ahead and connect the ground power, and the reason for this has nothing to do with actually needing ground power to start it. It has everything to do with needing the SINS cable for INS alignment. So we're going to go to our ground electric power. We're going to tell them to turn on the ground power. And you'll see that they will turn on the ground power. And with that is going to be a SINS cable getting attached. You can see that. That is for our INS alignment. In order for us to do an INS alignment on the Tarawa, we have to have that enabled. So from here, we're going to go... Well, we'll leave the cockpit open. I like the sound of this engine when it starts up. It can be a little on the loud side, but it's usually not too bad. So to start this off, we need to come down here to our right knee board here and switch on the battery. From here, we got to come and we got to turn on our fuel flow, which can be done through this here. And then, of course, the DEX, which is for the engine controls. And we also need to turn on our fuel pumps, which are right here. These need to go forward to be in the normal position. Now from here, if we weren't going to start this aircraft up using the auxiliary power unit on board, we would just go ahead and flick the engine start switch, which we'll do now. It's going to scream at you, master warning, just go ahead and turn that guy off. What we are looking for is going to be the RPM gauge over here to rise. We'll go ahead and turn on some of our cockpit lights while we're waiting for it to rise. When this reaches 92, we are going to bump the throttle off the idle position to the... off the fuel cutoff position to the idle position. That will start up our engines. Turn on our DDIs. The rest of our cockpit lighting is actually going to be down here, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn the instrument panel on, the console panel, warning and caution to halfway, and I always turn the floodlights on to halfway. This gives us all of our engine lighting. We've got our engines. Let's go ahead and close our cockpit so we don't have to talk over the engine sound. From here, we're going to go to this switch, which is the flaps power switch, and we're going to turn it to on. And we are going to leave it in auto, which should be the middle position of the three positions. From here, we want to double check and make sure that nose wheel steering is set to, or the anti-skid is set to on. We want to also double check that all of our stability SAS stuff, which is yaw, roll, pitch, as well as the rudder yaw, is all forward. Q feel should also be forward. And we should have this turned on, which it was by default. So we will go ahead and leave that there. And from here, we're going to go ahead and lower the ejection seat safety lever. This basically primes us for everything we need to do to actually take off. But we also need to do an INS alignment. So over on one of our DDIs, I always choose the right one. We need to go to the EHSD, press the button next to it. And that needs to also come down here and hit C. We rotate this switch. This is our INS switch. You can see here there's a line between C and INS G and D, which stands for ground. This is going to be our INS alignment. We want to verify that the time on this is going up, which it is. If it isn't, come over here to the throttle, which is this right here, and double check to make sure that the parking brake is set. Now, the parking brake is concealed behind the actual throttle normally, so when you throttle up to start the engine, the aircraft doesn't roll forward when the engines spool up. So that's a requirement. Sometimes it gets turned off for whatever reason. It needs to be on. So a couple of the other things that we need to do here. Engine RPM, I always set it to high for takeoff. Lids needs to be aft. This is the lids, that's the lift improving devices. It helps keep the engine exhaust air when the nozzles are rotated down from being sucked back into the intake, which obviously causes a reduction in the amount of power being produced. That would be bad on takeoff. I think for the most part, the rest of this is really just kind of sitting here waiting. For pre-takeoff, we need to make sure our water is set to high. You will note that the engine RPM also kicked up when we did that. They also recommend that you come over here onto this DDI, if I can actually get to it with that, and activate the engine panel. This will tell us roughly our current engine operating parameters. The other thing that we're waiting on here is you can see the qual time is now going down. It is actually qualling stuff, so let's turn on our radios. And then our HUD. Now you'll see our HUD is fully, we've got lines. If you don't do the INS alignment, you actually won't have lines. You won't have a very good, you won't have the directional compass here. You'll have to rely on manual stuff, and it's just not a lot of fun. So I like to get everything set up while we're rolling. There's a couple other things that I always come down here and I flip on DMT, the DP switch, which has to do with the dual processor mode. Come down here, I also like to turn these two on, and then the FLIR switch, which is above the INS switch, and that gets everything else kind of working at its best. If you are carrying the AIM-9, which is over here, or the sidearm, which is over here, I also like to pre-cool all of my missiles by hitting the IR cool switch, and that should get us ready to go. We're just waiting for the INS alignment now. Can also set on our RWR, as well as turning on our, this is our expendables is what it's called, but it's our chaff and flare, as well as if you were carrying an ECM pod, setting it to standby. Okay, so once our qual time hits 0.7 OK, we're looking for the OK mark, we can come back to this switch and switch it over to nav, and you can see our EHSD has populated everything here. And now we can use this for navigational purposes. We also have our full HUD, and we are pretty much started up and ready to go. I like to always do one last quick check through here. If you wanted to turn on your lights, you've got your position lights, anti-collision lights, the auxiliary lighting panel. You need to come over here to actually turn them on. They have 3 modes. There is also a landing light, which is over here, landing and taxi. And yeah, so from here you're ready to take off and go. Like I said, the Harrier is actually surprisingly simple to start. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to actually get up and going. It's not like the Hornet, in which you actually have to spend a fair amount of time turning on all the different systems and then lining everything up. Once you get the engine rolling, everything else is pretty straightforward and fairly easy to do. Of course, when you get ready to take off, like I recommended up here, you have to set your water setting, because this engine does use water for takeoff. You want to set it to the takeoff position. I also come down here and set the nozzle stop to anywhere between 60 and 65 degrees. Also like to make sure again that our engine RPM is set to high so that we get maximum engine performance off of this. And everything else is all about the takeoff roll. And we will actually cover the takeoff roll and everything else in a different video. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found this enjoyable. Expect to see a lot more Harrier videos. This aircraft is just such a fun, unique aircraft. We could do whole videos on the history of this aircraft and the reason why it's awesome, but we'll hold off on that for now. For now, we're just going to focus on getting the aircraft started up, as well as implementing and utilizing it. Anyway, I'm Whiskey11 signing us out of the Gaming Lounge. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.